across the pond in the Emerald Isle of Ireland, all the way to the Hawaiian Islands, college football will be played today. We welcome you to the start of the 2022 college football season and the beginnings of the newly revamped College Football Today. Live right here on Sports Grid each and every Saturday throughout this college football season at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I am Ben Stevens, alongside old K-Dubs, Kevin Walsh, and the mastermind of the pigskin, Joe Lisi. Gentlemen, I was so excited for the start of this 2022 college football season, I could barely sleep last night. I know Joe Lisi feels the same way. Lisi, how many pots, not cups, pots of coffee have you already consumed on this Saturday morning?
Oh, it's been about 2, Ben. I haven't gone to bed. I did the show last night at 12 o'clock. I went to bed at 3, and I'm back up at 5:30. Week 0 is here, baby. Doesn't get better than this.
Oh, man, that is
Kev, I know that
stuff.
excitement is something you feel as well.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's a huge college football season. It's the right guys to get the job done here on the grid. We have been pumped up about this. We're ready to go. Week 0, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, 5, 6, 7. You know the LeBron thing. We're ready to put championships up here on this show. Let's make it happen, my man.
Don't tell me week 0 doesn't matter, because it does. Impactful games across the slate that start at noon Eastern time. It will take you all the way until tomorrow, Sunday morning, out off the mainland in the Hawaiian Islands. You'll be up at 1:30 a.m. Eastern time tonight watching Hawaii and Vanderbilt. But it also allows us an opportunity for one final time before games start on this Saturday, week 0, to set the stage for the 2022 college football season and some of the biggest storylines we will be following here on this final Saturday in August, all the way through that first Saturday in December. Kev, we start with you. What is a storyline throughout this college football season that you think will be front and center?
I think the idea of redemption, and it really crosses the landscape. Even the guys at the top. You know, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud still have quite a lot to prove this year, despite the fact that we know they are phenomenal and are big favorites. But not just the top 2 Heisman contenders from last year are back in college football. Last year's top 2 Heisman favorites return in DJU and Spencer Rattler. And I don't know what Rattler's going to be able to do now going over to a smaller school. I know it's still an SEC program, but we're talking about NFL draft prospects, and what he can possibly do for the Gamecocks is one thing. DJU at Clemson, this is a program built on championships. At the minimum, college football playoff championships. And this is a team that last year massively underachieved, in large part due to his play. He's going to have pressure behind him in Klubnik. He has a lot that he has to prove, and he has to prove it early, because I think he will be pulled, Ben and Joe, if he is not impressing.
Last year, Spencer Rattler entering 2021 when he played college football in Norman, Oklahoma, the preseason Heisman favorite at plus 350. He is not near that number entering 2022 now for South Carolina and Shane Bieber. DJ Uyunglele. Say his name, Kevin Walsh. A classy move to just say DJU. But Clemson had won 6 straight ACC championships entering last season. That streak was snapped. A quick welcome to our Sports Grid radio audience here, the opening hour of the newly revamped College Football Today to begin the 2022 college football season. I am Ben Stevens. He is Kevin Walsh. Joe Lisi in the mix, as well as are all of you on our terrestrial radio affiliates. And in that time, when Clemson had dominated the ACC, the Tigers had appeared in 6 of the 8 college football playoffs in its history. Joe Lisi, a conference that has not appeared in the CFP since the end of the 2016 season. 5 consecutive years is the Pac-12. Is that streak snapped in 2022?
It's possible, but I don't think it'll be USC and Caleb Williams with Lincoln Riley. It could be potentially be UCLA, or even a team like maybe Utah with Cam Rising at the helm. That's the biggest storyline for me when you talk about the Pac-12. Last time they were in a college football playoff, 2017 with Washington, they got blown out by Alabama. Things have to change for the Pac-12 because they're on life support. They don't make a run at a college football playoff this year, Ben, whether it be UCLA, USC, Oregon, or Utah. This conference might not be around in a couple of years.
And we will have our college football playoff predictions later on in hour number 3 of this program that takes you all the way until noon Eastern time when Austin Peay and Western Kentucky get the 2022 college football season underway. Lisi, I'm glad you mentioned the college football playoff because for me, my favorite storyline entering this year is the idea that college football is chalk. If you don't believe me, look at the 8-year history of the college football playoff. 32 available spots in 6 programs in the country out of 131 FBS teams have taken 25 of those 32. And in the last 5 seasons, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma have occupied 17 of the 20 available spots. Will we see that chalk once again in 2022, or will it resemble 2021 when 2 newcomers in Michigan and Cincinnati broke into the Final Four of the college football playoff? So much more to get to here. 3 hours of the newly revamped college football today. We start with a preview out in Dublin between Northwestern and Nebraska. Up next here on Sports.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play less.
Aaron Rodgers and
The morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. Movement in the marketplace like
Orlando
Fantasy
Magic.
sports
The Cleveland
today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to
PPG,
coast.
that's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind
decisions.
of bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live
I
all
like
access.
Vandy. I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take it 4.5.
In-game live. Prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live. Overtime.
All done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
It is all happening, boys. Dubsy Wednesdays, training day. We're talking about LB pool holes. All rise for Aaron Judge. All rise for Dubsy. This is what we're doing in the golf betting, baby. What an announcement this morning. The PGA Tour have returned serve and say, hey, don't you sleep on us. We still got plenty of dollars up for grabs. Notably, we've now got 20 events on the PGA Tour schedule where the big names are going to show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio. Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart or TuneIn, or catch us on SiriusXM Sports Grid Channel 159.
marquee matchup of week 0 of the college football slate here in 2022. Welcome back to College Football Today, live right here on Sports Grid, alongside old K-Dubs Kevin Walsh and the mastermind of the college football pigskin and Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. All eyes on Ireland, my friends, as today at Aviva Stadium in Dublin, it's Northwestern in Nebraska with a Big Ten opener to start the 2022 CFP campaign. And we have seen movement on this spread in favor of the Huskers in the last 24 hours. All summer long, as this line became available, it was Nebraska having the line work in its favor from 9 at its early beginnings all the way to 13.5 until yesterday. That number worked back in the way of the Wildcats. Now at 11.5, the Huskers, an 11.5 point favorite today against the Wildcats with an over-under that stands at 51 in a hook. Joe, what do you make of that reverse line movement now working its way back to Northwestern?
Yeah, well, we saw this line get up to 14 a couple of nights ago. They immediately bet it down to 10.5 last night. They settled in right now at 11.5, and it's up from the opening line, Ben, of about 8.5 a couple of months ago, right? So you look at last year's game, Nebraska absolutely dominated them, rushed for 427 yards. They pounded the rock 56-7. Now it's a revenge spot for Pat Fitzgerald and, more importantly, Ryan Helinski, the quarterback, right? Can they step up on a neutral field? I'm already sitting on a Northwestern plus 13.5 ticket. I know Nebraska might be the better team, but we have a new quarterback in Casey Thompson, new offensive coordinator with Mark Whipple, a lot of pressure on Scott Frost to win a meaningful game. And I'll ask the both of you, what are the odds in terms of Scott Frost potentially being fired should Nebraska lose this game? Because this is his 5th season. He doesn't have a meaningful win in his tenure in Lincoln. It's one thing to lose 7 games by 7 points or less. It's another thing to pull this game out. More pressure on Nebraska than Northwestern right here.
It's definitely more pressure on Nebraska. If they lose and fire Frost, they should have never brought him back, right? And you could have just let Mark Whipple be the head coach. What I think is an important point to make here, and Joe, it was something you were kind of talking about before we got rolling here, is the line movement that you are seeing for these games and some of the week 1 games is not going to be typical. This stuff has been out here what feels like forever. I initially thought that I would be coming on this show and saying, give me Northwestern plus the points. I thought I was going to be saying that, though, getting 2 touchdowns, if not across the hook. So it's been interesting to see this work back towards the Wildcats there. I don't think you can not factor in the location, being overseas. Historically, though not a monstrous sample size, these games in Dublin have been slow starters. Ben, something I know that you're going to talk about also as it relates to these two teams here. I think there's going to be some prop value on this board, no doubt about it. But this is a spot where I think there's going to be a lot of live value because I'm expecting that slower start.
And don't tell me that week 0 is not important, because when you have a divisional game against an opponent from your own conference, these will have ramifications that will factor into the race for a Big Ten championship and a Big Ten West divisional title. And Nebraska has the second best odds to win the Big Ten West right now at plus 350, only trailing the favorites in Wisconsin at plus 170. This is a fascinating number on the Huskers, given the fact Nebraska was just a 3-9 football team a year ago. All 9 of those losses by single digits, but Nebraska has combined for 6 wins in the last 2 seasons. So, Lisi, it's an interesting discussion that you started there. This Nebraska team and where they are entering 2022. There is optimism because of the revamped roster, because of that new coaching staff and offensive coordinator Mark Whipple. It's a win total for the Huskers, Lisi, at 7.5. Again, a team that combined for just 6 wins each of the past 2 seasons. Joe, how do you evaluate Nebraska as they enter 2022?
Well, I want to see how Casey Thompson plays because, you know, we talk about Mark Whipple in terms of his progression and tutelage of Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's first season with Mark Whipple, 13 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Wasn't, world-beating and number one draft pick potential. So I want to see Casey Thompson develop in this ballgame. We know that they were able to run the football effectively, 180 yards on the ground. That goes right into the weakness of Northwestern's defense that gave up well over 200 yards per game. But again, in a revenge spot with 6 months of preparation, I give the edge to Northwestern here. Again, there's a lot of pressure on Scott Frost to step up. A lot of new assistant coaches. The pressure's going to be on if they fall behind in this matchup. They need to get their big play wide receiver Omar Manning involved early and often. If they can't do that, especially in the first quarter, I think this is going to be a four-quarter game, guys. I really do.
Casey Thompson feels like the star of the show. Really, again, all things considered, one of the more important players in college football this year. If you're willing to judge everything, if it's not all about the college football play, this is a team in Nebraska that's trying to go from one win in conference to a Big Ten championship game appearance. They're going to need Casey Thompson to be a star. Passing yards prompt the other day was 230.5. At some spots up to 237.5. You can still get a 233 and a hook on Casey Thompson. I'm really liking the over on this number. And you mentioned the relationship with Whipple and Pickett. I understand comparing Casey Thompson to the only first-round quarterback in last year's draft is a little tricky, but just hear me out. Last year, Pickett averaged 332 passing yards per game. Even if you go the year before that, it was 267.5 passing yards per game. And that is while Mark Whipple was the offensive coordinator for Pat Narduzzi, who does not want to throw the football. We know that Whipple is here now at Nebraska, Ben, basically given the entire free reign of this offense. I think they want to present a new identity, and I think that's with Casey Thompson throwing this thing all over the field, as many opportunities as they have.
Kev, a lot of the focus will be on Nebraska's new signal caller in Casey Thompson, the Texas transfer. You mentioned that prop at 237 in a hook. In some spots, it's a number he went over 4 times last year as a member of the Longhorns, and every time he went over 237.5, he threw for at least 280 yards. On the other side for Northwestern, they will need a lot better quarterback play. Northwestern also just a 3-win team a season ago. Ryan Helinski seems to be the starter today for Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats. For both of those gentlemen to find the end zone, Casey Thompson around plus 195 from that anytime touchdown scoring prop. Ryan Helinski, that number is a lot larger. And I think it's interesting, Joe, when you take last year's game in Lincoln, a different circumstance in Nebraska, inside Memorial Stadium, this a neutral site affair in Dublin, Ireland, but it might not be the quarterbacks we're worried about. The Huskers ran for 427 yards against the Wildcats last year. Northwestern had a bottom 10 rushing defense in the country, allowing 231 yards per game. Lisi, with a new offensive coordinator, in the first game of the year in Dublin, do you think Nebraska goes a little bit conservative early on and establishes the run, as is the Big Ten credo?
No, I don't. I think they have to throw the kitchen sink at Northwestern. We know that Northwestern is weak in run support. They were last year, but they're going to be better, I think, especially with 6 months of preparation. I think the biggest thing for Casey Thompson is to get him into a rhythm. If I'm Mark Whipple, I'm Scott Frost. I do not want this game creeping in to the third quarter where it's a one-score game. For me, I want to knock them out in the first half, try to be explosive, throw over the top, and really challenge that secondary. If I can do that and build a double-digit lead, then I know I can coast maybe in the second half and rely on the run game. But for me, I think it's a fast start, or at least has to be for Nebraska. We'll see if they could do it, because Patty Fitzgerald is a very good coach in a revenge type of spot, guys.
A guy by the name of Patrick William come on.
I'm just
a guy
pumped
by
up.
the name
I'm
of
just pumped
Patrick William Fitzgerald II, coaching in Dublin. That might be something in the cosmos for the Northwestern Wildcats today. Nebraska will need a fast start if they have any chance of covering an 11.5-point spread. They're not the only Big Ten team in action today. They also go around the Mountain West.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football
And that is the
today.
dominance of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports
You
today.
have to understand that.
Can
Whereas
they survive those first 4 games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live
you can take
all
the points,
access.
you can take the money line. And
FanDuel Sportsbook, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Seems like some people are starting to back the Wildcats.
a lot of respect here from Nebraska, as if they were just going to open up the season and roll. There are a lot of changing parts on Nebraska. New offensive coordinator, which we probably think will be a good thing for them. We'll see if Scott Frost's team can kick it back into gear for the season. We know last year they rolled over them, so Nebraska coming a little bit fat and happy in this one. But it was kind of interesting where this game might have been pushing, Kevin, over 2 touchdowns.
Only on Sports Grid. Fantasy Sports Today.
Yeah, I think no chance of that. McDaniels has said, like, this is going to be a committee. He brings in Brandon Bolden, who is his passing down back last year after James White got hurt in New England. They also brought in Amir Abdullah, who has, bounced around the NFL a ton. Although Amir Abdullah, when he has played the last few years, has actually generated targets.
Only on Sports Grid. The morning after.
Key matchup you're paying attention to the most between the Huskers and the Cats for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we talk about how bad the rush defense was of Northwestern last year, right? Keep in mind they allowed 7 of 12 opponents to rush for over 200 yards. They were 0-7 in those ball games, Ben, and lost by an average margin of defeat of 26.7 points per game. But that was last year under Scott Frost offense.
The Sports Grid Network.
The marching band welcomes us back in here on College Football Today, live on Sports Grid. Let's continue breaking down the Week 0 slate that starts the 2022 college football campaign. 3 Big Ten teams in action today. Of course, the Irish opener between Nebraska and Northwestern. But in Champaign, Illinois today, the Fighting Illini host one of the multiple Mountain West teams also in action on this Saturday for Week 0. Illinois and Wyoming in Champaign. This line earlier this week, 9.5 in favor of the Illini. Illinois names Tommy DeVito, the Syracuse transfer, its starting quarterback for today's matchup against the Cowboys, and that line screams in favor of Illinois. Now 13.5 on this Saturday morning. Illinois, the strong favorite at home. But it might be the ground game, Kevin Walsh, where Illinois looks to prevail today.
No doubt about it. And really, the 13.5 is important. But that minus 600 is what's going to stand out to me. Again, player prompts are going to be something that we are going to hit on this show a lot because I'm excited to see them available here in Week 0, and that's going to only increase. Chase Brown has a number listed at 100.5. You might see the number and think this is out of control. Well, it's already up to 105.5, and it's all with good reason. Last year, Illinois won 4 games. The first game, Chase Brown not really all that much involved. It was against Nebraska. Here's what he did in the other 3 wins. Against Charlotte, 26 carries, 257 yards. Against Penn State, 33 carries, 223 yards. And against Northwestern, just 14 carries, still good for 112 yards. Joe, I'll throw to you. You tell me what you want to do with this number now because the number is on the move. But I'd be very surprised if you tell me you have Wyoming winning this football game, which means Chase Brown is going to get the ball 20-plus times and clear 100 yards, probably by half, if not just slightly underneath that number. Chase Brown's going to have a monster day here, Joe.
I don't know about that, Kev. The last 7 games of the regular season, Illinois only rushed for about $134 per game. This is a front 7 in Wyoming. Very active. Both teams resemble each other. They're mirror copies. And if we're talking run game, how about Titus Swen in Wyoming that averaged 211 yards on the ground last year? His number is 68.5. I think Wyoming is the team that's going to pound the rock on the front 7 of Illinois. So we'll see how this game plays out. Andrew Peasley, the former Utah State quarterback, gets the start. He's a mobile quarterback as well. I think Wyoming's going to be in this ball game from start to finish, guys. I already took them at 12.5 and 13.5. Wouldn't shock me if Illinois wins, but Wyoming does, in fact, cover on the road. And I'll say this, Illinois does have a short week with a conference game of Indiana Friday night. That could be another reason why maybe Brett goes a little bit vanilla in this ball game.
But let me just say this quickly, Joe. Part of the reason you mentioned the lackluster performances with the offensive run game there, that's why Bielema is firing and hiring. He's bringing Barry Lundy Jr. in, who cannot stop talking about the importance of running the ball. So I think you're going to see a lot of that today from this team, Ben. I mean, but look, we've got a Big Ten team in action here, Nate, laying nearly 2 touchdowns.
And it's Illinois as that nearly 2-touchdown favorite. And it's the second year of Bert, the man known as Brett Bielema, in Champaign. And he has a system all about running the darn ball. It's known as barge ball, where they will line up 9 guys eligible on the line of scrimmage. It is about establishing the run for Brett Bielema at time. And although Illinois only has a win total of 4.5 entering 2022, the Illini, an incredibly profitable team, covering numbers last year in the Big Ten Conference. 7-2 against the spread in Big Ten play last year, booked as an underdog in 8 of 9, covering in 6 of those 8, winning outright in 3, booked as more than a touchdown underdog. Do not sleep on the Illini, another one of those Big Ten West teams in action today. But I mentioned it, guys. It starts in Ireland. It ends tonight and early on your Sunday morning out in the Hawaiian Islands. Vanderbilt, a football team that has won a combined 2 games the past 2 seasons, is nearly a double-digit favorite on the road off the mainland in Hawaii. Vandy, Joe Lisi, a 9.5-point favorite now against the Rainbow Warriors. We know how successful Hawaii is at home week 0 of the college football slate. Is the spread too large, Lisi, in your opinion, in favor of the Commodores?
No, it's not too large, and if I had to bet it, I would still lay the 9.5. I think Vanderbilt wins this ball game by double digits. Now, you know the spread and the ATS record for Hawaii, 11-1 over the last 12 opening week 1 matchups. But you look at the stadium and the attendance, no home field advantage, about 9,000 fans. You look at 2 starters coming back on the offensive side of the ball, only 1 starter on the defensive side of the ball, one of the worst third down defenses in all of college football last year, 46%. And this Vanderbilt team, guys, down the stretch against better competition for bowl teams, Missouri, Ole Miss, Kentucky, and Tennessee, they were able to establish the run. They rushed for 228 on Ole Miss and 98 on Kentucky. They covered 4 straight. I like Vanderbilt in this matchup, guys. Michael Wright's an active quarterback. They flew in on Sunday night. I think Vanderbilt wins by 14 points or more.
Vandy's already on island time. The only number I care about for this final game of the week 0 Saturday slate is Vanderbilt minus 370 on the money line. You might be asking, who's this chalky guy? Here's my point. Vanderbilt's win total this year is 2.5. It is one of the lowest that you will see across any sports book that you use, Group of 5 conference or Power 5 league. It does not matter. Vandy has not won an SEC game against their conference foes in 2 straight seasons. So thus the win total at 2.5. Joe Lisi and I are already on that over. One of those 3 wins that we need has to come tonight on the road in Hawaii. Next week, Vandy gets Elon. The week following, they play Wake Forest. There's a final non-conference game against Northern Illinois and maybe an SEC game out there. That's how you would get to the over of the 2.5, at least 3 wins for Vanderbilt this year. The second year of Clark Lee, and a quarterback, Kevin, that I know you have your eye on to start things off on that right foot for Lisi and I with Vandy's win total this season.
Absolutely. Mike Wright and his ability to run the football is, I think, probably a big reason that he won this job at Vanderbilt. The number 43.5, now sitting at 44.5. You might look and say last year when he was actually out there in the mix for Vanderbilt, kind of 50-50, him going over this number. Those are SEC defenses here, not Hawaii's. He should be able to have his way, but I'll also add this quickly, and it breaks my heart to do so, because this is the last game on the slate. And that automatically, year after year after year, meant I was going to bet the over, whether it was a good decision or a bad decision. I think this game is an under, though. I think the Hawaii offense is going to be an absolute mess. I understand bringing back Timmy Chang, but I think it's going to take a long time for him to find his footing, calling the plays here and figuring this offense out. And for Vanderbilt, if they do have a weakness, and I think this helps the Mike Wright rushing total, Ben, it is their offensive line. Little bit of pressure, take off, beat a linebacker, and scamper downfield. So I'm looking to Mike Wright to really run all over Hawaii, but I do think this is going to be lower scoring than the 54.5 now suggests.
Yeah, that total at 54 in a hook. What a sicko game that would be to see a low-scoring affair in Hawaii to end out the Week 0 slate. As we go around the Mountain West Conference, it should be noted that a few teams in this league in action today with some of the least returning production in all of college football, including the Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii. Only 28% of their production from last year is back for 2022. And that is the case as well for Utah State. Around 35% of this team is back. That's a small number, but a big position back is the quarterback for the reigning Mountain West champions in the Aggies. Logan Bonner, Joe, is there as the QB for Utah State. At home today, Utah State is nearly a 4-touchdown favorite against UConn, but the line has worked back in favor to the Huskies just barely. It was 27.5 earlier this week. Now stands, Joe, at 26 in a hook. Jim Mora Jr., the new head coach in stores. What do you make of this matchup between the U's, UConn, and Utah State?
Yeah, Utah State won the Mountain West Conference, and I think they're great value this year at plus 550, a better road team than they were at home last year. They were 8-0 on the road, but this could be potentially a look-ahead spot for Utah State. Week 1, they are on the road in Tuscaloosa, catching 39.5 points to Alabama. You mentioned that Jim Mora Jr. is there. He brought in a lot of defensive JUCO talent. I expect this defense to be a little bit better and much improved. I think UConn covers this number, guys. I think it's a potential look-ahead spot for Utah State. They win, but UConn does cover. Taquan Roberson does get the start, former Penn State quarterback that cost me money against Iowa last year.
Let me tell you, one of my favorite things with college football is how real those look-ahead spots are. And it's not just in, we might come out slow, but it's we might take our foot off of the gas. So here's what I'm doing with Utah State. First half team total, it's 23.5. Last year, UConn played only a few teams that were noteworthy, right? Fresno, Purdue, Clemson, UCF, and Houston. 45+ to all of them. That would be the Utah State team total. But again, Bama's on deck. You take those same 5 teams I talked about there, and we saw all but one score 30+ in the first half. I think Utah State, look, if you want to tamper down in the second half, right, Ben and Joe? Well, you got to be up big at the end of the first half. I think they get 4 touchdowns in half, number one, and clear that team total, and then tamper down and let Joe maybe backdoor it here with the Huskies.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Logan,
a potential way to go. I think UConn's going to cover this line. I really do, whether it's a first half total or a backdoor cover. In the second half, if Logan Bonner and the crew are up, I expect them to rest the starters, getting ready for Alabama.
Fresno State now the favorites to win the Mountain West in 2022, plus 230. Boise State only 30 cents behind. Utah State, the reigning champs, tied for the 4th best odds at plus 600. Talk about some value on the Aggies. Heisman looks for this upcoming season. Up next.
might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
They don't kick field goals. So now, like, a stupid number like 32 or something should be used because it ain't a multiple of 3 and all these other things that go into making the numbers. Like,
all right,
they ain't ever going to kick a field goal, so 35 and a half is not an option or something. Like, you got to move it quicker. People will figure it out. The rhombuses and the parallelograms will figure it out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all 3 major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy, DFS, and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour Champion, 2017 World Number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. 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 Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the bet slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sportsbooks. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
Have arrived. The start of the 2022 college football season. This Saturday is week 0. But before games begin at noon Eastern time in just over 2 hours, it presents us the chance for one last time to set the stage for everything you need to know for the 2022 college football campaign. And that includes striking the pose. Our Heisman predictions for this upcoming season, all based on the odds, our picks, and where the value might be deeper down that Heisman Trophy board, because there are 3 quarterbacks at the top that have very short numbers in comparison to the entirety of the rest of this odds board. C.J. Stroud, the quarterback of Ohio State, is the betting favorite here as we enter 2022 at plus 200. $2 behind that, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Alabama's QB in Bryce Young. And only $2 behind that, Caleb Williams has made his way up this board. A 6-to-1 price now on the new signal caller for USC. Kevin, I think we can group those big 3 together, given how short their prices are to the rest of the field. How do you evaluate those short numbers here before the 2022 CFB season begins?
I want to talk about the man in the middle in Bryce Young, because the difference between him and everybody else is he already has one of these trophies. Last year's Heisman winner is back. Now, part of the reason that the only person who's ever gone back-to-back in Archie Griffin back in the 70s is it's not super often that a Heisman winner is back. But the other reason is the expectations that you have to live up to go far beyond anybody else. Here is what Bryce Young brought to the table last year at Alabama. 4,872 passing yards, 47 passing touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. If Bryce Young is going to win this award, is it reasonable to suggest that he needs to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 passing touchdowns? Oh, and win the SEC, be completely unbeaten. Now, again, do I think they win the SEC? Yes, unbeaten, almost assuredly fine. But like the bar that he has to get over to cash just a 4-1 number, Joe, feels a lot higher than even the top dogs that are around him.
Yeah, they're the team to beat, though, right, Kev? I mean, they have the marquee games on the schedule, Texas A&M. They have a team like LSU, a rivalry game, potentially a game against top-ranked Georgia from the SEC East. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot to overcome, but if one team could do it, it's Alabama and Bryce Young. I think that's value at 4-1, believe it or not, because of the fact that he does come back, the fact that last year he did struggle in some critical matchups. We saw Alabama play down to the level of competition against teams like LSU, Auburn, Arkansas, respectively. And I think the SEC West is loaded. So if he can go through that schedule, that gauntlet, and more importantly, the non-conference schedule, and rip a team like Texas of national recognition, we're giving the hype train to Steve Sarkisian and Bryce Young maybe tosses for 500 or 600 yards. I think at 4-1, that's pretty good value.
And when you look at what Bryce Young can do, it's also the correlation of the market, because Alabama is the betting favorite to win a national championship this year at plus 180. The Tide have won 3 of the 8 national championships in the 8-year history of the college football playoff. And just my historic trend perspective here, to be in the running, truly, to win the Heisman Trophy, your individual success must lead to team success. In the past decade, only Lamar Jackson, when he won the Heisman Trophy in 2016, was a statistical anomaly where his team in Louisville wasn't all that great, at least on that national level, because the other 9 Heisman Trophy winners in the past 10 seasons have either won a conference championship, appeared in the college football playoff, appeared in that national championship game, or ended up eventually winning the national title. So correlate the market. C.J. Stroud, the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. His Ohio State Buckeyes have the second best price to win the national championship at 3-1. His season-long props, Joe Lisi, 4,400.5 passing yards with 44 in a hook for his passing touchdowns prop. Lisi, if he goes over those numbers, not only will he remain that Heisman frontrunner, not only will Ohio State have a top 5 scoring offense in the country, but you have to think the Buckeyes would certainly be in position for another appearance in the CFP.
Absolutely, and he has 2 big play wide receivers that we know about, Travion Henderson in terms of the run game, and this is an offense that averaged well over 40 points per game and dominated solid defenses at the end of the year. The only team they struggled with was Michigan in Ann Arbor at the end of the season, but he has another schedule as well. I mean, this is a perfect schedule for C.J. Stroud. He's already a 16.5-point favorite at home in Columbus, week 1 against Notre Dame. National recognition, major team, national spotlight. If he chucks for 500 in that ball game, it'll be Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. So, I mean, they have the games as well. Ohio State also plays Penn State. They play Michigan. Those are teams that should be in the top 15 at the end of the year. If he plays well, that's great value as well. But I'm going with another player that we're going to talk about a little bit later.
And we'll get to those guys, but I want to mention something here as we're talking about the top dogs, and it's their sidekicks. And it's going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba, the Ohio State wide receiver, and even to a little bit lesser extent, though the same odds at 50-1, Jahmyr Gibbs, the Alabama running back. For Gibbs, look, again, the idea is if Bama is so dominant, and maybe they're running the football a little bit more. Gibbs has a lot of talent. You might not know him. If you weren't betting Georgia Tech games, can't really blame you. If you weren't watching them. In fact, if you were watching them, I have a little bit of questions. What were you doing? That's a little too much Georgia Tech football you might have been consuming. But there's a reason he makes that leap to Alabama. He's super talented. But Jackson Smith-Njigba has my attention in a major way. I know the idea. Well, if he can win it, don't you think that means Stroud has to win it? Tell that to Mac Jones. And here is the other thing that I really believe JSN has going for him here. It's what we last saw. 15 catches, 347 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl against Utah. Against Notre Dame week 1, when he has 100-plus yards and 2-plus touchdowns. While Stroud will be a big part of the story, the Jackson Smith-Njigba number is going to come down, Ben, from 50 to 1. Stroud's not going to be picked after the Notre Dame game, but I really do believe that Smith-Njigba is going to see legit movement after that Notre Dame game.
And as Kevin mentioned, the last time we saw Jackson Smith-Njigba, 15 grabs, 347 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns in the granddaddy of them all. Not a Rose Bowl record, not a big bowl game record, an FBS bowl game record for the best receiving performance we have ever seen. The only thing that I will say in terms of the correlation between Devontae Smith winning the Heisman Trophy in 2020 with his quarterback Mac Jones, a Heisman finalist as well, Mac Jones was nowhere near the betting favorite like C.J. Stroud is entering the 2020 college football season. However, I am shocked that we have made it nearly 8.5 minutes into this Heisman Trophy odds discussion, Joe Lisi, and Kevin Walsh has yet to mention Caleb Williams. I think we give Kevin a minute here to talk about his favorite come-from-behind quarterback, because if he can beat the Kansas Jayhawks in Lawrence, of course you're going to have success in Southern California as well.
I mean, look, ask Power Program Texas if that's an easy feat, all right? I mean, Caleb Williams doesn't let opportunities like that slip through his hands. I know at some point we'll talk about the Pac-12 here. I just think some of the conversations that we see around Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams are it seems like a lot of people don't like this 1-2 punch here. And I don't mean they don't think they're good. I mean, they actively dislike who they are. People seem bothered that Lincoln left, and people seem like they just I don't know why they don't like Caleb Williams, but that's how it comes off of the page. He had huge moments last year at Oklahoma. You know the talent is there. And the idea that he's going to go to the Pac-12 and struggle against those defenses. Like I don't see that there. He's up here this high for a reason. I know a lot of people believe that USC is overvalued in the market throughout, but I don't think Caleb Williams is at the minimum. He belongs right next to Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, Ben.
No, I don't know if I agree with that, Kev. I mean, USC is a team that's going to have to be in the national championship picture, and they can't lose to teams like Stanford as a 17.5-point favorite or Oregon State as an 11.5-point favorite. He's going to put up the numbers offensively. He did at Texas, but he also struggled as a 30-point favorite against Kansas. So there were phases in Caleb Williams' game last year where he wasn't as consistent. And even though he might be a compiler at USC, do we really believe that USC is going to run the table and be an 11-1 or 12-0 football team in year number 1 with a defense that gave up $165 to opposing offenses? No way. I'm going with other teams like Dorian Thompson Robinson and UCLA as a 100-1 shot. I think he has better value than Caleb Williams.
And let's get to that value here in a second, because one thing I will bring up is that 17 of the last 21 winners of the Heisman Trophy have played the quarterback position. The top 5 odds this year all play QB, but the most bet on Heisman Trophy potential participant now is Alabama's edge rusher in Will Anderson. So good at the sport of football, such a physical presence, he was kept out of spring practice to hopefully not harm some of Alabama's offensive line. He has the next best price of any non-quarterback at 30-1. But Lisi, we know the Heisman Trophy is a quarterback award. You mentioned DTR there in Pasadena, in Westwood for UCLA. Also a guy that will orchestrate a highly powered offense for Tennessee in Hendon Hooker.
Oh, one of the most prolific quarterbacks in college football last year. Completed well over 60% of his passes, 31 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, ran the football as well. And Tennessee is that fringe team to potentially challenge the Georgia Bulldogs in the East. He goes on the road in Athens somehow, some way. Hendon Hooker gets the upset win over the top-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. He's going to catapult into the top 5 as a Heisman Trophy contender. And let's not forget, year number 2 in Josh Heupel's offense, he has the potential to throw for 4,000 yards and maybe even 40 touchdowns this year to resemble Bryce Young. As long as Tennessee is over 8-4 and they have a marquee upset win like Georgia or even potentially Alabama, they're already 13.5-point underdogs. Don't count out Hendon Hooker at 60-1.
60-1 is that price on Hendon Hooker. Only one team in the regular season last year against that vaunted national championship winning Georgia defense scored more than 2 touchdowns. It was Tennessee, putting up 17 points. A couple of names we haven't brought up yet in terms of value deeper down the Heisman Trophy odds board. Can they bring Texas back? Because one of the best prices for a non-quarterback is the Longhorns running back in Bijan Robinson, up this market now to 40-1. His quarterback, however, is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is 50-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. There have been 3 perfectly rated quarterback recruits in the history of college football since we started tracking those things around the year 2000. All 3 most likely will play in Austin. Vince Young already has. Quinn Ewers is the day 1 starter this year for Steve Sarkisian, and Arch Manning is on his way. Quinn Ewers last year went and got the NIL bag, made over 7 figures at Ohio State. But he is one of the best quarterback recruits in the country. If he matches that optimism with his production on the field and Texas wins 10 or 11 games and is contending for a Big 12 championship, the Longhorns have the second best odds right now. Keep an eye on Quinn Ewers' number at 50-1 to win the 2022 Heisman Trophy. We go back to the Week 0 slate to round out our number 1, a Conference USA class. Up next.
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. 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 Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the best slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sports books. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid. The early line.
Seems like some people are starting to back the Wildcats.
A lot of respect here from Nebraska, as if they were just going to open up the season and roll. There are a lot of changing parts on Nebraska. New offensive coordinator, which we probably think will be a good thing for them. We'll see if Scott Frost's team can kick it back into gear for the season. We know last year they rolled over them, so Nebraska coming a little bit fat and happy in this one. But it was kind of interesting where this game might have been pushing, Kevin, over 2 touchdowns.
Only on Sports Grid. Fantasy Sports Today.
Carr, to be honest, for me, just is not a guy I ever end up targeting because I feel like he's a little bit too expensive for what he is. And, I prefer the guy we talked about earlier in the week, Trevor Lawrence. Probably even prefer Daniel Jones a little bit cheaper because those guys, Daniel Jones will run a little bit. Lawrence, I actually think, probably has an even better range of outcomes.
Only on Sports Grid. Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play
Aaron
less
Rodgers
games.
and
the morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. We saw movement in the marketplace like
Orlando
Fantasy
Magic.
Sports
The Cleveland
Today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to
CBG,
coast.
that's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind of
decisions.
bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live
I
all
like
access.
Vandy. I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy could win the game, take a 4.5.
In-game live, prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live, overtime.
All done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid.
Today should be a national holiday, in my estimation. Week 0, the start of the 2022 college football season. Welcome back to College Football Today. I am Ben Stevens, alongside old K-Dubs, Kevin Walsh, and Joe Lisi. As we round out hour number 1, the focus is back on some game previews for this Week 0 slate on your Saturday. A Conference USA clash, Joe Lisi, between Florida Atlantic and Charlotte. FAU hosting the 49ers today, and the Owls more than a touchdown favorite, laying 7.5 at home. How do you break down this matchup between Charlotte and FAU?
Yeah, this is one of my better bets for the day, guys. I'm on the underdog in Charlotte. Last year, FAU won this matchup 38-9, week number 7. But you look at the quarterback matchup between N'Kosi Perry and Charlotte's quarterback, Chris Reynolds. Chris Reynolds, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He has 2 of his top wide receivers coming back, and Grant DeBose and Victor Tucker. They combined for 113 receptions, over 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. I like Will Healy, the head coach, over Willie Taggart. It's a revenge spot, even though there's rain in the forecast. I'm taking Charlotte plus the 7.5. I also took them plus 230 on the money line. Don't be shocked if they strike the upset on the road today.
That's tangy. And let me tell you this right now, all right? This game, to me, it looks like it has juice. And sometimes we're going to disagree, but other times you got to be able to back your dogs. So if Joe Lisi tells me that it's Charlotte bringing the juice, forget FAU. I don't want anything to do with their points. I hope they get shut out. But over 24.5 for a Charlotte team total, that's how you back your guys, Ben.
It's not the only CUSA game that we have today. The Sun Bowl, one of the best settings in all of college football. And right now, on the FanDuel Sportsbook, UAB and UTSA, the co-favorites to win the Conference USA Championship this year, both at plus 200. Hour 1 of the first CFT for this college football season is done, but we got 2 more hours coming up live right here on Sports Grid. Stay with us on College Football Today.